Hello, selectors, and welcome back to the Life First podcast. I'm Andrew, but I'm accompanied with a very special winner of the third GP at Las Vegas that happened just recently. Hey, Brandon, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hi, hello. I'm Brandon. I somehow managed to win the last GP. Got a lot of lucky life bursts, and I'm here now.
Brandon, that's kind of the way I think that last GP went. I was joking with some people who were like, "How did you get there?" And I was like, "I think I might have been a protagonist, and I think I had plot armor." I, I
Yeah, I
think
think I can count multiple times that I threw and somehow did not somehow got away with it.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of the secret name of the game on this format was a burst heavy format, dude, and you had to sometimes be like, well, I burst well here or I lose, and then you burst well and you managed to get it. But I think there was something specifically in deck building that kind of leaned towards that. I can think of some people who didn't necessarily put their like game swinging bursts into their life cloth. And then when they hit a normal life cloth, it didn't it life burst. It didn't save them from the game. Whereas I put like 3 emergence into my deck, and I don't even think the emergence was the best card of the deck, but it was a good life burst, to help swing the
Yeah, I think
game.
that's actually one of the problems with nanashi to get ahead of it. But 80 or burst or just salvage. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's not good. And then you have the Kagameka's like 10, but at least Kagameka can stop something. But I
Yeah.
think I think halfway through the day I was like, okay, maybe this wasn't the right deck because I have 8 salvage first, and it's like, oh my god, I just have to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So let's talk about that
yeah.
then for how you decided on Nanashi in the first place to bring, and also if I remember correctly, I know some of your locals. I think they said you were a relatively newish player to WeCross.
No, I think it might have been talking to someone else. I started playing around P3 ish.
Okay, so not new. You've
Yeah,
been around for
yeah,
10 sets at
yeah,
least.
yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Talk to me about getting to this GP with and the choice of the Nanashi deck specifically.
Well, so at first in P12 I was playing Black Tama
Mm-hmm.
because I you play either Haneo, Miko Miko, or Tama, and I was like, okay, well, I'll play Tama, and then I was on Sunspot Tama, and I think, and then I was like, okay, they announced the GP was set 13. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, you pick those 3 decks, or you add in Nanashi or Pure Look, right?
Yeah.
Because I've never really been playing the green decks that much, so I was like, okay, I'm not sure I want to play those. And then if you look at all the JP results, it's mostly focused on those L rigs. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like P12 is like, okay, maybe I'll play Miko Miko. So I tried Miko Miko a bit, and I just realized I was really bad at the discard stuff. So, like, I want to discard them out really badly, but then it's like, okay, it's when Miko Miko gets going, the easy games are really easy. They're out of hand, they can't do anything, and you just kind of run them over. But it's like when it gets when they have hand, and it's like, okay, well, it's just kind of tough to keep going sometimes.
Yeah, and to the viewers who are watching my beautiful
Yeah.
face drink tea, I just finished like a 3 hour live stream, so excuse me while I drink some tea. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it does very much feel like that. I kind of while I was doing my GP prep narrowed it down to I think the 3 best decks in the format are Miko Miko, Nanashi, and Perluk. Ha,
Yeah, I
and,
think
and
that's
then
what most people settled on.
yeah,
Sorry, go
and
ahead.
then like three like 2 random like kind of like wild cards being Anj and Black Tama Mayu. I think those decks could also like depending on if they go hot or not, right? They definitely make it. If they go hot.
Yeah, so I was playing Miko, and it just didn't fit well with me. And then, like, okay, should I stick with Tama? But I didn't want to go to Mayu because I felt Mayu was a bit too swingy. But Tama herself didn't feel that great either because I think if you're not going to kill him with their resource, kill them with Miko Miko, I think you need to play a deck that has since it's such a fast one, you need to play a deck that has that 1 extra damage,
Mm-hmm.
like, Hanaya with the life with her crush or Nanashi that mills you out.
Yeah, I mean there
So I
was
was like, either one of those two.
there
Yeah.
there was there was a lot of jokes going on with my team too, talking about how we just needed to figure out some way to put an Arisal in our deck. Like it had no spaces, but we were like, we just put an Arisal in our deck and got the extra damage. I think we'd be the best. We
Yeah.
just couldn't fit it. We just could. There's no way to do it. But Nanashi doesn't need the Arisal. It can just get there, on its own. Um,
Yes.
But
So yeah, so I was thinking like Hanayo or Nanashi. So I played around with them, and then I saw since I was already playing Tama and used to all the black stuff, I was like, okay, I'll just try Nanashi, and it felt pretty well. And then so I was like, okay, I'll play Nanashi definitely because I think I was pretty busy in the lead up to the GP, so I didn't really want to play something too complicated. And
yeah,
Nanashi is kind of the easiest deck in the format.
well, you said it, not me there. I think Nanashi, one of its strengths is that it has basically two game modes, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. You're the champion Nanashi player here, but like it feels like it has two game modes. The first one is like aggro them out, and the second one is like, okay, I can't aggro them out, so I'm gonna play a little bit of a longer game. I'm gonna play this mid range sort of like draw cards, discard my opponent's options down, and deal damage to them game, right? Like it feels like it has those two modes.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, and the those two modes are not so different that if you do the first mode and you're like, actually, I need to do the second mode, you can't transition into it. So it does feel very much like if you know how to play this deck, you should be okay if you have basic recross knowledge of which mode to jump into.
Yeah, and then I think most of the time if you just open 3 holes and swing for defenses, you'll probably do okay.
Yeah, Miko I felt was a little bit more complicated. Like Miko, you needed to know the right time to do the discard in order to avoid the Xeno, and then that really punishes the players and then rewards you as a Miko player. So it was a little bit more difficult to play. And then I thought Paraluke, which was probably the other good deck, was way too fucking hard to play. Like I was like, I'm not a good enough player to play this and win.
yeah. It's like, yeah. And then, once I decided on Nanashi, it's like, okay, do I want to play Sunspot Nanashi or the Unrest Discard Nanashi?
Ooh, that's a good thing to bring up. Well, why did you settle on Unrest Nanashi instead of Sunspot?
So I really wanted to play Sunspot at first because, with Hanayo and Anj going around, having those 2 extra cloth or 2 extra life just feels really good, right? Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm against Bert Dash Anj and they have to hit me 2 more times. What are they going to do, right? But I think in the end, like Sunspot, it's only 1 card you get, and it's just too weak into all the discard piles because, everyone going in is expecting a lot of Miko or a lot of Pure Look. So I think I had to play the deck that was just a little more resilient to all the discard in the format.
Yeah, totally. And Unrest does that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So follow-up question with Unrest. You did play a Sunspot Nanashi, right? To get into the finals, right? Didn't you end up playing one of those?
Yes, I did play Sunspot Nanashi and for the semifinals against Griffin.
Yeah. And how did that go? Like that seems like a kind of interesting matchup.
Yeah, I think Sunspot, as I mentioned earlier, Sunspot is a bit weak to discard in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this game was kind of a mess because it was top 8 and we were both kind of tired. So, I missed my grow, but the judges said, okay, that's still covered by take back roll. So I got saved there. But it's like, my god, yeah. But yeah, I think that game was pretty tough because he put out Sunspot. Like, oh my god, how am I going to push through all the extra damage? But I think I managed to discard him out and then keep him on low hand so he couldn't play optimally every turn. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense to me there. So yeah, you decided Unrest was the way to go. It just gave you access to more cards, plus you can put your opponent a bit more in a bind, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and then Sunspot, like you do get to dodge all the Xenos going around, which is not nothing. It's pretty good, but then it's like, okay, well if they Xeno, they're 3 cards closer to milling out. So
well before we get into like how your rounds go, because I'm very interested to hear like if Sunspot was necessary or not, or just the life bursts worked for you. Let's talk about the deck itself. I think the Elrig deck that you chose is pretty bog standard, but like for everyone at home, just to talk about it real quick, you did choose the Madoka line and the Mel Revise line and the Mel Invisible line. Madoka Float just gives you access to the best dig that you possibly can. Madoka Dub being kind of an interesting way to pair with Unrest, because you can pay the blue enter to also add more discard to the pile, and also gives your hand a float, right? Like I think that's the goal with that thing.
Yeah, I think for the blue, since you're going to be playing Mel Invisible because that's the best screen assist, and Mel Revise is really good.
Yeah.
So for the blue, you need a cheap blue one stop. It's either Madoka or Tamago, or I guess now you can go Eldora.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Madoka Dove is just the best because it has zero cost to grow, which is you don't have to pay to blue, whereas with Tamago you do have to pay to one.
Yeah.
And then Eldora they do have to open tree, and then sometimes it can be really sketchy there. But I think Madoka is just the most reliable, and you get to dig one more with the level one.
Yep. And how often did you hit the guard off of the random discard?
I did not hit it at all, but every time someone used against me, they hit it. So
okay, got it. So Madoka was doing his job, just not for you.
yeah.
Mel Revise and Mel Invisible feel like a weird sub game in this format, because like against the aggro decks that are also probably depriving you of enter. The Revise is great. You can just free enter grow, right? Like the sweet.
Yeah.
But the weird sub game is, do I do this on turn 2 so that way I can get access to blue and play Unrest on time? Or do I have to wait because my opponent theoretically could enter burn me off of my green and then I can't grow Invisible? Right?
Yeah.
Where did you land on like that game? Like, were you playing Revise early or were you playing Revise late?
I think in general I would play it early, but I try to I just have to stuff one black in there with Revise, so they I try if they're going to grow an X, to try to hit them so they only get 1 or 2. But sometimes you just have to grow it on level 2, and they just hit just hit your enter, and you have to find the green somewhere else.
Yeah. And you were playing at 1 emergence, so theoretically you could fish something out of your enter with it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, transitioning to your and then Xenocluster, of course. You've got the ubiquitous Xenocluster of this format.
Yes.
How often? Let's do a Xenocluster question. First off, which art did you use?
I used the Niji art.
all right, cool.
Yeah.
Dude, I wonder if the site actually showed what art we used. It did. I used the other one because I didn't like the Niji art.
Oh yeah. I got the Niji art because it's like using this little orb for 10 sets now. Let's try something else.
Yeah. What's funny is there's a locals for me who is like all about VTubers. So I feel weird playing a VTuber. Xenocluster. I'm like, I'm not a real fan against this real fan, so I've always just used the explosion of it. Hey, here's some lore dump for you. Xenocluster shows like Wixoss land exploding. I don't know why that's the lore dump, but that's what it is.
Ooh, maybe it's foreshadowing for Epic 24 format.
Yeah, whatever. So let's talk about the main deck here. In your non-life per spot, you've got 4 Pond Turtle, which it's probably correct, right? You don't mind discarding your hand down to get the opponent's hand down.
Yeah, well, so the base of this deck is, I started with the Kano deck list, which is, a player in Japanese Wixoss, and he was using this deck for since it came out to really for a couple months. So, he's been basically running the same 40 cards. So it's like, okay, I'll start with this. If he's using it for so long, he got top 4 at the last Mugen Shoujo. It has to be doing something right.
Yeah. I guess if it can keep going that long, there must be something good into it. Yeah, which is sometimes weird because you look at deck lists sometimes and you go like, yeah, they've done this for so long, they must be right? But then also you're like not really seeing that they're in a different meta, and they may have tweaked a few things to be better in that meta. So you did some change. Did you do any changes or?
I did some changes.
Okay. Let's talk about those changes then.
Yeah, so I think the 4 Pond Turtles. So I got most of it from there. So the 4 Pond Turtles and all the 1-ofs, I think I kept. But I think I cut out. So first thing I added was 2 Wolves. So I ran some games with it, and then first thing I decided to make a few changes. First thing is 2 Wolves because I think I just needed a little more level 1 push, and then like Firecracker or Wolf, and then Wolf because you need green.
It's literally the same thing with me. I was like, I cut down to 2, went up to 3. Cut another one, went down to 2. No, I don't cut these ever. I cut the last 2 are golden.
Yeah. And then, I think I might have cut 1 Ivy for a bang, but... So at first I was like, okay, I'll run 1 more Alpha because it's a free hole and everybody's, can kill most things in the format. But
yeah.
I think in the end I was like, okay, the second... And after playing Fit, it's okay, the second Alpha doesn't actually do that much sometimes, so maybe I'll run a bang. And then I was ruminating over it, and then... I think the day before I entered my deck, someone suggested an and Desona, and I think I should have gone with that because I think, you said you want to talk about the rounds later, but in practice, playing out the deck, I was really short on green, and I could never pay for two Vangs. I didn't even use one most of the time. So I think having an and just like as a wall and maybe some insulation would have been really good.
Yeah, so Anna's such a weird card in this format because like it was kind of a joke card in my play group because like we would talk about like basically every player who was a blue player got blown out by Anne the first time around. And then the
Yeah.
second time around was like, I'll never be blown out by that card again. And then just proceeded to not lose to it anymore.
Yeah.
But I do think it's cool when you can play it like on turn 3. I don't think it's great, but on turn 4 or if it goes to turn 5 against these blue decks, I think Anne then becomes unbeatable. Like
yeah,
turn 5.
Once you get rid of all the answers they have for it.
Yeah.
So that yeah.
And for what it's worth, Miko does run out of answers on turn 4. If you can
Yes.
go past turn 4 with Miko, I think you win the game.
Yes.
Which I think is kind of what happened to us. I just ran out of gas against us, but we'll talk about that later. So you added you kept a lot of the 1-ups, but you added the 2 bangs. Was there anything else that you?
So
added?
there was one bang and a 4th IV, but I
Mhm.
cut one IV for another bang because in practice, you always throw middle counter 2 and you just go 3-3-1 until the end of the game when you're
Yeah.
all in on the final turn. So cut a level 2, add a level 3. That's pretty simple.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, and then the other option was a 1 of Love It, but then there's no other enter burn in this deck, so I didn't really feel comfortable adding a Love It just in case. But
ironically, I'm on the same camp as you. So I played the Kumi Cup, and I played Nanashi for it, and I won the Kumi Cup with it. And I played zero Lovitz in it, and I genuinely felt 0 Lovitz was the right answer there, while everyone was freaking out and trying to figure out how to stuff Lovitz in there. I was like, I'm pretty sure with Nanashi, I just want to go every turn. I just want to be like Hinanim, play Hinanim into some other utility level 3, and then have out a level 1 that opens up a lane, and then I attack and I win the game that way.
Yeah. I mean, you have no enter denial. You're always running over every card because you're a discard deck, so you need to keep them off cards. So they have a million enter anyway. So I just didn't feel like it was worth it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, man. I think that was the right way to go. Which is it's funny because going into this format, I don't know what the prices of Love It are right now, but they probably are still astronomical because everyone's like, you got to run 4 Love It, and like and I ran 4 Love It in my Miko deck, but I don't think you run it in this deck.
I think if you're doing Sunspot Nanashi, because then you have Exorcist, then you probably want some. But for Unrest, I didn't find it necessary.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
and then I think the other standouts might be the 1 of Pure Luck because that's not always there, and then the 1 of Ubanda. But I think that's I was playing with it. You need that sometimes because it just gives you that 1 extra card against discard.
Yeah. I agree with you. In fact, I think I ran 2 Yabanda in my list, and also I think I ran 2 Paraluke in my list. I found it oddly important to have a Paraluke on the final attack turn to be like, you don't have a guard,
Yeah. And then go ahead.
No, all you.
Oh no, just wanted to move on to the life burst if you had nothing else about that.
Yeah. Let's talk about some life burst here.
Yeah, so I think this is pretty standard. 4 servant, 4 hedonym, 4 extra. Those are just you always have to run those.
Yep.
And then Matcha Flap, you needed some amount of Matcha Flap for blue, but I really didn't like it because you play it and I just didn't feel like it was ever doing anything besides maybe cycling sometimes. So
yeah, I weirdly enough, that's the reason I love that card. The reason you hate it is the reason I love it. I was just talking on the live stream too about how some Dishonor decks just feel like they need a pocket of air to kind of cut through because like the Dishonor decks sometimes just don't make 40 cards good, right? Like they just they just have a hole. Like, all right, well I made it to 37 cards. How do I get to the last stuff? And it feels like Matcha was the way to do it as well as Emergence. Like both of those cards were like distinctly ways to be like, all right, I got to 40.
Yeah, so so the list I was looking at had 4 Matcha. I removed 1 for the second Kago Mecha. Sometimes since Nashi is very dependent on finding heat in him, so you just want another Kagomeka. Sometimes you have to use it to get the heat in him.
Yeah, that makes sense. Plus, that life burst is a good one.
Yeah. And then so go ahead.
No, I think we talked about it earlier. This is a burst dependent format, right? So it's unabashedly putting in even a third Kagomeka there, being like, I just need this life burst to go off occasionally to win me a game against aggro on turn 2. is a perfectly reasonable thing to say.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and then there's one of there was one emergence, one black aura. The black aura looks kind of strange, but sometimes that -3K really does just give you a hole, so it's not
Yeah,
bad. It's like your only removal burst that isn't using emergence or Kagomeka to pull out a Musica. So
yeah.
sometimes,
And
yeah,
the fact that it also doesn't cost enter is kind of big, right? Like in my head, when I was testing against Miko versus Nanashi, it was like basically like if I can get them to spend enter to open up the lane that has the virus, then I'm winning because they're using the enter and they'll run out, right? Like theoretically, they also have to use the enter for
right,
Heenan.
yeah,
So playing the Black Aura to do it for free feels pretty bad for me as a Miko player. I'm like, well, that sucks. That's a 3-stop that's now gonna stick like actually stick around and stop my damage output.
yeah. And then having a spell like open hole means you get a fill instead of playing a Musica, you can play like an IV or some other utility signy that gets you something other than just one hole. So it's really good there. And then
Yeah, Yabanda to draw a card there too. Yeah.
yeah, and then one of emergence because I think I needed a little more green, but it's like okay, I'll run emergence, and then I think you could probably remove the pay lobby, but having it as a one of in case you need for a Kagomeka burst or whatever can help.
Yeah, I mean, also it can help too because right, like if you hit a Kagomeka, yeah, hit a Kagomeka burst, put it out is what I was about to say. But also like it's a non-zero amount of times that you might hit it with Hinanim's enter ability to put it into your hand, right? So that way you can
Yeah,
or put it into play on your turn, so that way you can make a bang and make it normal 12k and then kill it with your once per game or whatever.
yeah.
Um, all right, that's the deck list. Let's talk about Vegas, baby.
Woohoo!
All right.
Yeah,
First off, did you enjoy Vegas before we get
yeah,
around to it?
yeah. It was very hot.
It was really hot. I went to the Grand Canyon and it was exceedingly hot.
Yeah.
My review to the Grand Canyon. Very hot. All right, so we did get to play in air conditioned but very muscled.
Yes, just stashed away in the back.
Yeah, stashed away behind all the muscle people that were like.
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone talked about that who didn't come. Probably no one knows until this interview, guys. There was just tons of bodybuilders.
Because they had a bodybuilder tennis convention next door, so and they had a really big room. We had this little tiny.
I feel nothing to make you feel more like a nerd than to be surrounded by gigantic buff people.
Yeah, you leave the room to go to the bathroom, and there's these buff guys in there. He's like, okay, yeah, now I feel really out of place.
Anyways, so yeah, that was we entered past all the buff people, got to our little room, and got to play Wixoss. How did your rounds go? Did anything stand out to you as being like notable rounds?
Well, I think I got pretty lucky in my Swiss rounds because I think if I had to put it one way, I think I did dodge most of the meta decks. We were talking about the best decks in format being Nanashi, Miko, and Prelook. I did manage to dodge them all until top 8, so I think I got pretty lucky there. But I think that doesn't mean the games weren't really close. I was really pretty scared.
Yeah, but I think that's sometimes the tale as old as time as in Wixoss. Yeah. It's like you fight through the like mid section and you're like, these are just weird decks, and then you get to the top tables and you're like, okay, I see one or two before I finally get to like top 8, and now I'm playing meta decks finally. I also dodged. Well, no, I played some meta decks, but I didn't play any Nanashi until you. Like you were the first Nanashi.
Yeah,
second
Nanashi, I was looking at tables, and there are so many Nanashis that I managed to avoid them all until I found, Sunspot Nanashi.
Pretty crazy. Yeah, I also avoided all Nanashis until I got to the finals, and then I played like nothing but Nanashi.
Yeah.
So did you play any standout decks that you were like these were head scratchers, or you played like a particularly good game and you had like a particularly good like play of events that you remember?
Not well. I think in the first 3 rounds are pretty standard. We just we start the game and then we just we compare who has better life cloth and then we move on. Yeah, so I did manage to start the day 4-0, which I felt pretty good about. Like okay, my goal for the day going in was top 16 to get one of the cool promos. Because those were all the cool promos were to remember.
Yeah,
And
but we got
the full
play
arcs and
sets,
everything.
man. We got play sets in the
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
promos.
so it's like, okay, I started 4-0. It's like, okay, feeling good. And then round 5, I run into Wilson on the Anj. It's like, okay, this is really. It's like,
Wilson,
oh my god.
yeah, Wilson
Yeah,
was the dream killer of that team.
yeah, yeah. I ran into him like, oh my god, I knew I should have brought Sunspot. So I go in, I miss my Grota 2, I die. It's like, okay, well, fine. And then round 6, I go against William on the Tama Mayu, right? And
Yeah.
like, oh my god, I should have brought the Sunspot. And then I die, and then at that point I'm 4-2. I went from 4-0 to being 4-2. I have to win the last round to get into top 8. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
Pressure.
I'm gonna, yeah. It's like you go from feeling on top of the world to feel like you're gonna die.
yeah.
And then last round it was against Mew, and then my opponent was also 4-0 into 4-2. So we were both on the edge of hell. It's like,
Yeah, I think I may have started his. I feel bad. I looked at. He did actually when I was looking through my rounds. I was like, oh, how did my opponents do? And I saw that I beat him on round 5, right? So I started his descent. And then he proceeded to lose the games afterwards, and I was like, "Oh shit! I was the domino pusher there. That sucks."
Yeah. So and then this round was really scary because I actually drew pretty badly because I paid the 5 for the Mew OPG, and then I fed out all my green except one. Who's like, okay, I only need one for Mel, and then I just completely forgot Love It existed, and then he was 2 cards out of milling me out for game, so I was like, oh my god, one more mill and I was dead, but I somehow managed to squeak by and get into top 8.
Yeah, what's funny is like when I went into my Mew game against the same guy who was playing the Mew deck very well.
Yes.
I was like, I've never tested against this Mew deck before. Right? I don't know what I'm doing here, but I was like, this just feels like it's maybe like a Nanashi clone, and if I just play this game like I would play Nanashi, then I should be okay. And I did, and then I was fine. So it was kind of interesting, and that it felt almost like a mirror maybe for TU.
Yeah, it was pretty scary though because I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die here, and then staring, because you're at the final time you're sure he has lethal, and he's just wondering why it takes so long, but then he somehow manages to walk away and not kill you, and you're like, oh, I'm alive. Okay, well,
I
guess so.
So well, you made it to top 8, which is pretty good. Spoilers, you eventually win the whole thing. But
it was pretty scary. Yeah, because I think because they're paired by ranking, right? So I see my first game against William, on the Mayu, and I think he had a really cool deck because I think Earth Aura with Mayu is like really cool, and
I think when I tested Mayu, I was like, this deck's pretty luck based. I don't know if you can win with this, and then he did his version with Mayu or with Aura. And I was like, this feels less luck based now. It feels like this is way better.
I was like, okay, I think I can never win this matchup if he goes first, right? So it's like, okay, well, I guess top 8, pretty good run. I mean, better than I expected, right? And then,
GG's.
Yeah, but I think I got he wanted to go second, which I'm still not sure that was correct or not because I think I can never win when he goes first. But he's the one that tested the deck, so maybe he knows better than me. But
he was saying that he was one of my test partners. He was saying that that going second felt very advantageous to him. And here's the thing: I don't know when it's right to say going second's advantageous to me, but going first is advantageous to you. So I need to deprive you of that, and then that
the eternal question, right?
Yeah. So because he also went second versus me, and I was like, I think I am doomed if I go second. But I think I have a fighting chance if I go first, and I was able to beat him in the Swiss portion because of it.
He sniped my last card from 3 cards with the dubs. Like, okay, what can you do? And then last cloth was a servant, so I lived. But
cool, yeah. So again, this is the burst format. Cool, good to know. Good to know.
Well, you have 4 healing and 4 servants, so it's not too unlikely. But
yeah. And then top 4, right? Top 4.
Yeah, top 4.
What did you do? How'd it go?
Yeah, it was the Sunspot Nanashi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I think I managed to discard him out pretty early, and then I think he was on Xeno, correct?
Yeah, he was on Xeno. Mm-hmm.
yeah, but yeah, I managed to keep, just keep him low on hand, drew Zeno, and just, that's the, like I mentioned earlier, Sunspot's kind of weak to the discard, so I tried to go really hard on the discard to keep him off cards and try to just kind of just win by having better boards than him most of the time, and
Yeah,
managed to squeak it out.
Totally. And then congrats, you made it. You were gonna go to Japan no matter what you did.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Did you have like any moment where you were like, oh shit, this is real now?
No, I think I was just pretty surprised and like, oh my god, and then the moment you win, they're like in your face, like, okay, are you going to go? Yes, no, like, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Give me more than 5 minutes, but probably yes.
Yeah, you can't even give me an exact date yet, but I mean, I know it's not their fault, but
or venue.
Yeah.
I know. I got asked that question, like, what's the format? What do you, how many rounds is it going to be? Where is it going to be at? What hotel are you going to be? I don't know any of the answers to this question. I'm sure I'll find out sometime. Hopefully, I'll get an email. But yeah. So you got there. We played, and I gotta be honest with you, man. I remember running out of gas first you, but I also I really lost my drive to play. Like as soon as
because like once you reach top 2, the prizes are basically the same, so it's like. All the pressure is on the round before that.
Yeah, I was just excited because, also, here's the truth. I was pretty confident I could potentially get to top first or second, right? And if I did, what I really was worried about was, I don't know who was going to be my teammate, right? And, but luckily, Rue and Pigeon were telling me, you're a great guy and was very excited for you. So I was like, cool, I'm happy. I've got a good teammate that I can play with now,
Yeah.
So I was just happy to play.
Okay, that's good. Glad they're on my side.
Yeah, from what I remember from that game was I overextended a little bit with the Xenocluster. I Xenoclustered, I think, a little too early. And
I think I went in on trying to discard you turn 2, turn 3, and you had the Xeno early, and then
and then I think I proceeded to lose because of that. I didn't also. My late game bursts didn't really help me card advantage wise, which I think suffered me in the end. I'm not gonna blame my bursts though, because I had fine bursts. They just weren't the best bursts in that scenario. Plus, I do remember discarding you down and being like, okay, cool. As long as you don't have the Henonym, and then you play the Henonym. I'm like, all right, never mind. Maybe next turn if you don't have the Henonym, and then you had the Henonym. I was like, I've got you. This is just none of my discard was effective.
And I think that's the first time I played Bang as a wall, and it actually did something. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I could make Bang a good card for you. Bang is my favorite Elring, so as long as she showed up in my matchup to ruin me, fine. I'm fine. I'm happy losing against that one. It was a fun game. It was what was fun was it was the most low stakes game I played that entire
we're also tired, so just kind of playing really messily, and I'm sure they're recording like, oh my god, how did these people win?
God, I know. Wait till Hellfire's like, do you guys want to commentate your on camera match? I'll be like, no.
I prefer if you just deleted it entirely, but I understand you can't do that.
He put out a poll that was like, do you want to see it with commentation or not? And I voted no, and I publicly, on Twitter, messaged and was like, I do not want to commentate my match. No, I don't want to see it commentated.
Yeah, I think we played really badly too,
it's not the legacy I want people to see. And the funny thing is, finally when they were like, all right, we're gonna take you off of camera. We're gonna take Wilson off camera because Wilson's been on for 5 rounds in a row now.
Yeah.
Right. That was the time that you went on camera.
Yeah.
That's when I played my best game that I've ever played in Weaker.
Yeah. Yeah, because I played on camera against him round 5, and it's like, okay, they got to see me missing my grows. Like, oh yeah, wonderful game.
Well, dude, let's talk about Mugen Shoujo a little bit. So it's crazy that we're going and representing America, which is nuts.
I'm pretty surprised. I wish they could cover the flight or anything, but
Well. I did say that on the live stream that I just did. That's what I did was go on a live stream and be like, let's look at deck lists and see what the hell arts are, And so I spent 2.5 hours looking at arts with people online.
Yeah.
Do you have any like plans of like how the hell you're gonna try to figure out the Japanese format and
Well,
suddenly
I
learning like a
looked at
bunch of
deck
cards?
lists, and then I think on the official Wecross website, there's some like helpful, when the arts first got introduced to Diva format. There's some people who wrote on some like community help articles, like, okay, here's how you should structure your Elric deck, and here's when you should use your arts and stuff. So I read through all
Oh,
those. I have enough Japanese knowledge to kind of read through those basically. So I read through those, and it's like, okay, that seems pretty
uh-huh.
good. And then I look at the deck list now, and it seems to match up what's going on there, unless you're like Yuzuki and going all in on the Enderburn and just try to kill him in one turn. But
Could
for
could
the most part, it matches that.
could you send me those lists or those articles that you're talking about? Or if you don't have them, could you shoot out the bullet points that you remember from it?
Yeah,
Because
yeah. They're on the website. I can send them to you later. And then,
yeah, I would love to learn
yeah,
more
they're in
about that.
Japanese though, so you do have to.
That's fine. I've got AI
Yeah.
translation tools. I can just use that.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'll
And
be
then
I'll be I'll be good. And I'll try to read through those like on a different live stream or something.
yeah.
And of course you and me, man. We gotta test. We
Yeah.
don't know who our next two partners are also.
Yeah. The
But
people who win Dallas, but
yeah, so those are
yeah.
for those are up for grabs still.
Yeah, and then and then, I've talked to some people who do play Japanese a bit and see what they say about the format.
Mhm. Yeah,
I haven't like gone really deep into testing the decks or whatever, because it's like it's going to be like 2 sets from now, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I do think getting some experience in just to get used to playing with arts and
yeah,
how the flow of the game goes. Like every deck is a fast 8 deck now. You reach level 3 and you already get to play level 8 Signy,
yeah.
8 levels of her Signies, and that's really different from what we're doing
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Just
and as a deck designer too, that's different, right? Like I started the live stream being like, guys, I don't know anything about this format, but I'm gonna make
yeah,
some guesses based on me as a deck designer. And that's my favorite part of Wecross is the deck building. So
yeah,
so I was like, I bet you, I could bet money on this. There will be less level ones in these decks and way more level twos than we've ever seen. And like looking at the last GP results, yeah, it was like generally speaking 10 level twos and
yeah,
almost always 16 to 14 level ones.
yeah.
So yeah, it's
Or
it's it's
yeah,
it's a bit different of a deck design too, and also almost completely monocolored decks with a splash of a signal color because the arts all cost a color, so it's way more
yeah, and
color intensive.
all the Owigs are tribal, so it's like all the best plants are green. So if you're playing Kitoe, which is like a lot of people say is the best Elrig right now, you want to be mostly green, and then
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah. I think we can find some holes, right? I also
Maybe.
weirdly enough, I think there is a little advantage being uncluttered by past experiences, right? So a lot of the
Yeah,
Japanese meta is like, well, we played All Star, we played things with arts before, and this is how arts should go. But
yeah,
like being a little unattached to that means that we're also potentially a little bit more free to make creative choices and see
yeah,
where it
but
goes.
yeah, but
So we'll see.
it's kind of having that experience does help. Just being able to, just autopilot. Well, not autopilot, but just having a bit more experience to
Yeah.
reference when you're doing things is pretty useful too. So
Yeah,
we'll see how it
we have the
goes.
advantage
Yeah.
over the Dallas guys, right? The Dallas guys like we only got like 2 months, like if they win to be like, oh
Yeah.
crap, how do I play arts?
Yeah.
We've got
Yeah.
like 6 months to mess
Yeah.
around before that happens.
Yeah.
So
And then it's going to be set 4, and who knows how much the meta is going to change in those 2 sets. Like,
I mean, look at how much the meta changes in the last two
yeah,
sets for Wecross.
like if you tried to prep for this GP going off of P11, what are you going to do? Show up with
yeah, you would.
show up with remember and die?
Yeah, exactly. So Wecross has a tendency to overpower their whatever their last 2 sets are basically. So I
Yeah.
am not going to be surprised if we're technically on even footing with everyone else, as
Yeah.
long as we know how
Yeah.
the flow of the game should go and how deck building should
Yeah,
go.
yeah, and who knows how deck building. They say they're going to provide a deck, but what does that mean? Like,
Hmm.
do they have preset lists, or are just going to have to use those lists? Or
Oh God,
whatnot?
no!
So,
I hope they take our deck list and they then just give us the Japanese
yeah,
cards.
hopefully, yeah, but
Which the running joke on the community has been that you and I should just choose all the like highest cost cards
yeah.
and not make a functional deck
They're like,
whatsoever.
this card has to be in UR, please, thank you.
Yeah. It's very important to the theme of the deck.
Yeah, but yeah, Mhm.
Well, anyways, man, this is a really really great interview. I think a lot of people probably learned quite a bit from this interview. I'm excited to play with you in the future.
Yeah, me too.
And maybe we'll do some streams or some videos together where we're playing with each other and just exploring the format. But until then, hey, do you have any shout outs that you want to give for anyone?
I guess just shout out all the other WeCross players in the NorCal area because they were really supportive. When I was on the brink of having a mental breakdown at 4-2, they're all supportive on Discord and keep giving me willpower to keep going. I guess. Yeah, it's like okay, yeah, 5-2 can still make it. You should just keep playing it out. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, it was really helpful. Yeah, that was really
Shout
helpful.
outs to NorCal. I know that you
Yeah.
guys are a pretty tight community. I always liked that about your area. It's true. It's true. I hear rumors about it, and I'm like over here in Atlanta, and I've got like we're tight knit, but we're very small. And
Yeah.
it's like oh, let's be nice to have a tournament that fires off of 12 people. That's kind of cool. I gotta play these online tournaments, but yeah, cool shout out for your area.
Yeah.
And dude, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
And to do my transition to the goodbye, let's all say goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye.
And may you guys always flip a life burst.